a very, very interesting quote. Does anybody here know who Charles Dow was? Anybody ever heard of the Dow Jones Industrial Average? Newspaper called the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal was created by Charles Dow in the 1890s. It was a one-page sheet of paper that he handed out every day on Wall Street. And Charles Dow, created what's something called Dow theory. He created the Dow averages. The two averages were the rail averages, which was the old transportation network of the day, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. His theory was, if the manufacturers are doing well, if the shippers of those manufactured goods are doing well, the economy must be doing well. Because remember, in those days, there was no GDP reports, there were no Commerce Department, there were no financial statements being released, there was no CNBC. All we had to look at were the markets, and the markets knew everything. Insider trading was not just legal, it was the most prevalent type of trading, and that made technical analysis even more useful because the people with the most information, the insiders, the CEOs of the companies, when they wanted to express that information, they'd go out and buy their own stock, and it was perfectly legal, accepted, and commonplace to be traded on insider information. So I won't read the quote, but Charles Dow's quote really sums up that think about all of the most informed investors out there. They all have to come together in the markets to express those views. That's why the markets are such great predictors of the future. Technical analysis. Interestingly enough, as I say, the most common form and place of financial analysis today is fundamental analysis. Looking at a company's earnings, income statement, balance sheet, and so on. That's a very, very recent phenomenon in financial theory. It was 1934 that gentleman Graham and Dodd wrote a book called Security Analysis, and that kind of set the stage for security analysis. Again, this is the point I made a couple times before. Is it fundamentals or is it technicals that drive the stock price, right? So this may be a formula that you've seen. It's a dividend discount model. So just looking at the present value of dividends. Do you use a fundamental theory? Do you use PE ratios or some forecasting of earnings to value a stock? Or is it, this is something you may have seen in your economics class. Anybody here heard of supply and demand in economics? Right. So that's that's how the price of everything is set, right? That's how the prices are set in the stock market. It's not some, on a real-time basis, it's not some fundamental analysis where somebody is forecasting their earnings and coming up with some complicated formula. It's the same type of supply and demand curve that you've seen for wheat or potatoes or guns or butter or anything else on a live basis. The value of a security is always based on demand and supply for that security. Is where supply and demand meet that those price spikes are. Now, fundamentals may be a secondary driver, but there may be many other drivers. It may be emotion. Maybe the seller needs to buy braces, for his children or put them through school or whatever. It may not buying and selling may not always be due to fundamentals. There are many, many factors, and right now, we've seen a lot of articles this week in the Wall Street Journal, for example. A lot of the CEOs of companies they founded 20 years ago are being forced to sell their stock because of margin calls. So they're not selling because they think the prospects of the company are bad. They're selling for a completely different reason, but technicals still pick that up in the supply and demand. Technical analysis, we don't care why the stock is rising or falling, we just care that it is rising or falling. And due to the fact that we see the stock rising or falling, we can see the volume, we get a read of what the general market sentiment is for that security. This is the point that I was making before. Fundamentals are only an indirect driver of securities. I mean, for real-time basis, the value of any security is always based on trading in the market for that security. Are the buyers willing to pay more and more for it, or the sellers willing to take less and less for it? Whatever the market conditions are in the stock market at the time, whoever shows up on that particular day to buy or sell gets to determine the price of the stock. Fundamentals are one input, but they are one of many inputs. Technical analysis, and this is kind of the classic definition of what technical analysis is. So this is kind of the key takeaway. Is technical analysis is the study of real-time movements, and we're looking at the price, the volume, and the trend. That's really one of the beauties of technical analysis is, you've seen companies restate their financial nobody has ever restated a chart. Charts never get restated. They are what they are. And the great thing about technical analysis is we're concerned with two data points: the price of the stock and the volume of the stock. Those are the only two raw inputs. Whereas fundamental analysis, we'd be here until next year if we started to talk about all the inputs that I could use to try and value or predict the earnings of the company.